takeaway?
Well, first of all, look, I'm contractually obligated to do this. Knockdown! That's number one. That is my number one takeaway. Okay. Number two, I like what Miles Turner said. Now, the aprons and, you know, the new CBA, all that stuff, or the latest CBA, that does make it tough for, like, 3 max players on a super team. It just going to make it tough. But I think Wilds...
We're laughing at the screen, bro. What they're setting you up for failure.
Indestructible.
No, coming up, NBA Finals pick at 4. Will Brew abandon Naptown?
Naptown, never. You are always in my heart. No matter what I say an hour from now, you are always in my heart.
All right.
But team basketball prevails. That's what I got from this series.
It's interesting.
I have always said, when the talent is close, fairly close, now it doesn't have to be exact, but fairly close, a team that plays 5-man basketball will generally beat a team that plays 1 or 2-man basketball. And that's not just the Knicks, and I'm not calling them selfish. I'm just saying styles of play. All right, Indiana averaged 58 more passes per game than the Knicks did in these playoffs. And Indiana was second in the playoffs in passes to Golden State, which is another team that, as great as Steph Curry is, and other than the Durant years, always was better than even the sum of its parts, which it has some great parts. Indiana averaged 9 more assists per game than the Knicks in these playoffs. And Indiana leads it. Indiana's the only team to average more than 26 assists a game in the playoffs. They averaged 28. The Knicks are they were 14th out of the 16 teams that made the playoffs. So they were one of 3 teams to average fewer than 20 assists. All right? And so Indiana's superstar is a pass-first point guard. Still give you 20, but a pass-first guy. And New York superstar is a ball-dominant, shoot-first point guard, at least in this system. Now, I think he could play differently, but that's how he plays with the Knicks and Thibodeau system. And I just think, like, that team basketball, they had 8 guys average 8 or more points. Knicks had 5. Like, this was a team. I mean, Halliburton, we say is a superstar. Whether you think he is or not, he's certainly ascending toward that. But he is a guy that gets everybody involved. They are just a great team. And I agree, Turner, they're a little different than OKC.
Yes.
But similar in many ways, too. Like, one star, legit.
Both have Paul George
all-star.
to thank for their superstar. And
that's true, too. But, you know, just a team, a lot of camaraderie and youthful energy.
So, listen, maybe this is a bad job by me. I hadn't actually heard that sound. I'm really glad that that's what he said, because my first line is, they are a great team for this era, particularly in this conference. And so, listen, LeBron made 8 straight finals in the East. Since then, it's been 5 teams make the last 7 and no team made back-to-back. And the reason I mention that is because since LeBron left the conference, aside from Giannis, and really he only had one healthy year where he was fully healthy and the supporting guys fully healthy, the conference hasn't had that, like, pantheon superhuman guy levitating above the conference where it's like, well, it's going to take a disaster for that guy, that team not to make the finals. And because of that, what you have seen through the teams that have won the East and really the teams that have won the championship in this mini era, they have similarities to this Pacers team. A clear-cut identity, which is, if it was the Nuggets, it was the Jokic-Murray high screen and roll. The Celtics, a bunch of threes, leaning on good defense. The Warriors' identity has been very clear for a decade now. The ball movement centered around Steph's gravity. These guys are going to get out and run. So you have a clear identity. You have not necessarily like one super-duper star, but 2 high-quality all-stars, which Jokic and Murray. With the Bucks, it was, Giannis, Middleton, Drew. They actually had a third. Tatum and Brown. For these guys, it's Halliburton and Siakam. And to Brew's point, 7, maybe 8 guys you are totally comfortable with playing real minutes depending on the night, to where for them, going to their bench, deep to their bench, means guys like Tony Bradley or Thomas Bryant or Ben Shepherd. Bryant was big. Those 3 threes. Those aren't guys 6, 7, 8. The way they would be for Denver this year or the Lakers this year. Those were guys 9, 10, and 11 because they have Hallie, Siakam, Turner, Nembhard, Nesmith, Benedict Mathurin, Obi Toppin, and TJ McConnell. Those are their 8 guys. And then I think for them specifically, I think it's fair to say Pascal Siakam is underrated universally, including by me. I looked on the King of the Hill. He was in the 9th row, in the 7th row, in the 6th row, at various times throughout the year. This is a guy who was awesome in a finals. You know what I mean? When they won a championship, has been a consistent playoff guy. And so, I think for their conference in this era, I think they are built really smartly.
Oh, God. Making it about this era is driving me insane. Because it's just kind of essentially saying, this team is pretty good for now, and how basketball is played now. Like, you can either say that's nonsense, or you could say, well, that's technically true then about every single team. Like, it's just, I find it incredibly frustrating and irritating. I'll be 100% honest here. But the biggest takeaway is, for me actually, is that for the first level of it is that Indiana Pacers play some of the most wildly exciting basketball that I've seen in my life, quite frankly. The speed and the execution and the depth that they play with and the unselfishness, that's just 100% my brand of basketball. Like, it does remind me of the Spurs and the Warriors, the 2 teams that over the last, I don't know, however long I've been watching basketball, that I absolutely love. Watching, like, ball-dominant players and, more ball-dominant driven teams, like, where it's really surrounded about 1 or 2 players or whatnot, is not enjoyable basketball for me. It's not fun. It's just hard to get into. Sometimes it's fun to watch a player really kind of take off, but just look at when, in the moments that the Knicks really needed something to happen, it was all Jalen Brunson. And Jalen Brunson, it's impressive to watch, especially because of his size and the success rate that he has in any given moment. Like, it is great to watch. It is. I think even Indiana Pacers fans can, like, tip their hat and be like, yeah, man, credit to you. There's times that you're just like, how the heck did he get that bucket? Like, how did he do it? It doesn't seem physically possible. But watching the Pacers just be so unselfish and so dynamic and so electric. Like, I was watching this game. I forget when it was. Was it a Friday or Saturday? I think it was Saturday, right? Weekend games are always weird. I was watching it, and I'm just like, this is an awesome game. Like, it's not even like it's awesome because it's so close or because you feel like, oh man, how's it going to end? Are the Knicks going to pull it off? Are the Pacers not going to win this game? Are we going for a game 7? But it was just like the actual, like, in any given moment, if you don't look at the score and you just take a snapshot and you're just like, let me just watch 10 seconds of this possession, you're just like, this is unbelievable. This is amazing. There was this one breakaway where they had, like, I think it ended up being like 3 passes. It was just like, I was just like, this is pure perfection. And this is like when you're a kid and you first learn the drill where, like, you're not allowed to dribble. Some coaches you can dribble like once or twice or whatever, but, like, sometimes you're running the drill and it's like you can't dribble. It's just all passing or whatnot, and it's always a tough, especially like one of the first times you learn it. You're like, what the heck? This is so annoying. But it's one of those drills that you continue to do into the NBA. Right? It's incredibly valuable and important. And you're just like, you're watching that drill in real life. And you're watching why it's like, you just want to go to, like, your 8-year-old self and be like, this is why you're doing this. It might seem dumb right now, but, like, this is what this leads to. This is the chemistry, the connection, the speed, the intensity, the success. And to now not have a single player that stops that, because make no mistake about it, almost like every team out there has at least a player or two that stops that from really taking off. That really it stops it. And the Pacers just do not have that. So like I could not be any more excited right now to watch the Pacers versus the Thunder. Because I think we're just going to get some such electric high level basketball that not only gets reduced to the players themselves, Siakam, Halliburton, SGA, but I think we're going to also see the preparation, the practices, the months and months and months and years of practices, the coaching. We're going to really see that all over this series. And it's just going to be awesome to watch. I can't remember the last time that we saw two teams go head to head like this, where you're just going to be like, I know I'm going to see such high level execution and movement and unselfishness. I'm excited to see how it goes in the playoffs because you can see the intensity. Sure, we've seen some of these games in the regular season, but it's like, dude, just look at this. Look at Game 6 and look no further than how playoff basketball is just light years different than regular season. I mean, it's just. I keep having this feeling when I'm watching the Pacers play, and to be fair, the Thunder, that I'm just like, this is why the regular season ball is brutal, because it's not this right now. It's not this. And Indiana, the fans were rocking. I mean, like, it's just the level of intensity is awesome. And so this is the brand of basketball that I just love to see. I really, really do. And how it's all going to culminate against the Thunder, I actually really don't have a strong feeling. When I was first watching all this go down, I'll totally admit, I was like, yeah, it feels hard. I don't see who can beat the Thunder. And I guess if you really backed me into a corner and you said you absolutely positively have to pick right now, who you picking? Like, the safe bet would be the Thunder. But the reality is like, I don't feel like the Pacers can't win this series. I really don't. I really, really don't. I mean, like, I feel like this could be an incredibly evenly matched series. I think technically the margin of error is bigger for the Thunder. I think the Thunder can technically play a little bit looser brand of ball, make some mistakes, even drop a tough game, and still end up winning. That I think the Pacers have a smaller margin of error. But in terms of what that both teams can do when they're both at their peak and playing their highest level of ball, I'm just not going to say, oh, well then, if that's the case, if everyone brings their A game, Pacers, they're not winning. It's clearly the Thunder. Like, I'm not really prepared to say that. I think the Thunder have some bigger names these days right now. They have a little bit more popularity right now. There's a little bit more energy behind some of these guys. And I do think that there's an advantage to having someone like SGA who can put up like 40 in a blink of the eye, that Halliburton doesn't necessarily have that. But we could even see in the MVP voting, and I'm not going to go too big in the voting because like it doesn't really matter, but we do downplay some of the other stuff that like a Halliburton can do, and we prioritize the points, like, because I think even Reggie Miller was like, man, where would the Pacers be without Siakam right now? And it's true, Siakam was carrying the leg work earlier in the game, but then when you see all the other stuff that Halliburton is doing and how he was closing out the game and how he's getting these rebounds and these assists and whatnot, like, it's just it's always easier to see the value in points, and I get it, because at the end of the day you got to put up points. And at the end of the day, if you said I can only pick one guy, a guy who can just get a bucket on command, or a guy who can like run an offense and play some defense and can get some rebounds here and there and can move the ball around, like, you're gonna pick the get a bucket guy, because it's just wild. It's important from the moment you're playing 4 years old on the driveway with your friends, and it's important in the NBA. It just is. So I get it, but like, we undervalue what Halliburton can do and what he brings to a team like this, and why very much so. I feel like people who don't really understand basketball you would think you could replace Halliburton or something in certain games, not as a team as a whole, but like you would say like, oh, Halliburton 21, 6 and 13, like, yeah, he had some big shots in the fourth quarter, but like, whatever. And it's just like, no, they fundamentally do not win that game. Do they start off hot? Does Siakam keep them in the game? Do they start off strong? Do they even have the lead? Yes. Without Halliburton, they do not close that game out at all. Like, they just don't. That is a game now that Jalen Brunson and Cat take over and then win. Boom, game 7. So it's just like, it's always tricky. I in a lot of ways, the Spurs dealt with this when they were kind of at their peak in their prime. especially pre-Kawhi. And then even the Warriors to a degree. There was a lot of other players that people did not really truly understand the value to them. Andre Iguodala probably being the biggest one, quite frankly, more than anything. But especially the Draymond Green, Sean Livingston, some of this other energy. So I just, as someone who's been so hard on the regular season for basketball, and watching all these shows where people like Colin kept saying, oh, basketball's in trouble. We need superstars. They keep trying to figure out who's the face of the league. We need a face of the league. LeBron's leaving. Needs to be Ant. It needs to be so-and-so. Like, what are we doing? When I watch teams like the Pacers and the Thunder play, I'm like, guys, this is like pure basketball perfection, which is why I take such issue of like, well, it's good for this era because since LeBron left, dude, this is such insanely high level basketball that it's not even funny. To try to reduce it to just this era doesn't really make sense. And like, again, things are technically kind of specific to the eras to a degree that like, I just don't, I can talk for another 20 minutes if I dig any deeper on that, but it's just like, yeah. So I think the Pacers are in a great spot, and I actually really, at the end of the day, don't know how the finals are going to go. And that's what I love. I love not knowing. Sometimes you watch the basketball, especially basketball, and you have a strong feeling, yeah, this team's going to win in 7. In a best of 7 series, they're going to win. And I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Indiana Pacers advancing? What's your biggest takeaway? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.